All right, it's 9 o'clock. Okay, good morning, everybody. It's Tuesday, April 6, 2021, and this is the Operations Committee monthly meeting. First order of business, we'll look for public comments. Do we have any public comments? We'll move on to the consent agenda, and on the consent agenda today is the review and approve of the minutes from the previous committee meetings, review monthly letters of comment from the department heads, approval of department vouchers, for that's county board, county clerk, finance, human resources, risk management, treasurer, and wellness. And what are your wishes?
I'll move approval of those items stated by the chair.
Second.
Motion by Plimmel, second by Fire to approve. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Next up, the Human Services. Donna, are you online?
I'm not seeing her.
Is Donna Rozar online, Kelly?
There is a call-in, there's two different call-in numbers that I don't recognize, but her name is not on
Is it
here.
a 207?
207 number.
Hey, it's
Yep.
Donna.
Hey.
Oh, well, that was abrupt, but we're welcome back. Anyway, Donna, would you like to talk about the CIP for bus purchase?
So I will. I assume Brandon's on here too. So between the two of us, we can cover this. So the issue is that we have a segregated fund in the Human Services Department to replace buses for the aging transportation program. And so a grant, I think it's an 80-20 split, and a grant was made, but we've got too much money in the segregated fund, so we were turned down for a grant. So we need to purchase a bus because we've got a bus that's got a lot of miles on it and needs to be replaced. There's enough money in that fund to purchase a bus, and then that will bring the fund down so that we will be eligible to replace another bus that's on its last leg. Then there is a second bus that we want to purchase used, and we need, the CIP money was in there because we thought we would be eligible for the grant, but now that we're not eligible for the grant, we need to change some CIP money around so that we can purchase this bus and then also purchase the used bus. So if Brandon is on there, I'm going to let him go ahead and clarify if I messed anything up, and then I guess we'll need a motion to move the money around. So Brandon, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
can, Brandon. Go ahead.
Okay, good. So yes, Donna has it pretty accurate. It is an 80-20 grant that we applied in the CIP that was approved last year. We had 20% of the money coming out of our trust fund and 80% coming from a grant from the state. I guess, unfortunately, fortunately, however you want to look at it, we have enough money in that account that the state said even though we had one of the highest grants scored in our proposal, we're not eligible because we don't have a need financially. So if we use the money that's in the trust fund and purchase a bus, it'll lower our number down where we'll be eligible in the future for a bus purchase. So this isn't any county tax levy that's being taken to use to purchase this bus. It's in a trust fund. And you may be wondering, how do we get a trust fund? Well, the state gives us an 85-21 grant allocation every year, which is, I think, now north of $200,000. And the county's required to have a 20% match on that. So around $40,000. Right now, we are at a minimal match amount, so we can't reduce county tax levy at all. We've maximized that as much as we can. So we have to contribute that $40,000. So what happens at the end of the year between revenues and that grant amount, we end up having a surplus. So that surplus goes in the trust account. So by the time we we have our tax levy at the minimal amount. We still have a surplus at the end of the year. It goes into that trust account, and it's required to do so from the state to purchase transportation expenses. So that's where we're at.
So Brandon, you want to explain that we do charge a nominal fee for these individuals to ride the bus, and that money goes into the trust fund also, is that correct?
Yes, that's part of the revenue that we receive between the state grant and the charges for the rides. That money all comes together and gets us the bottom line and ends up going back in the trust if we have a surplus.
Okay, we don't have a resolution ready on this, so we just basically need the approval to do the transfer, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions? Move approval by, motion by Plymouth, second by Fisher to approve the transfer. Donna, you need any other comments or everything? You got everything out there?
No, I think, yeah, it's just a reallocation of CIP dollars.
If being no further discussion, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? So carries unanimously. Donna, thank you very much. Okay, next up is, let's see, wellness. Adam, are you on there? Yeah, there, I see you on there.
Yep,
Go
I'm
ahead.
here. All right. Well, so with the end of March, both the deadlines for the biometric screening and the health assessment have wrapped up. So just looking over the numbers right now, they're pretty much the exact same as last year. I'm almost right on the head. About 460 people completed their biometric screening, and so far, about 459 of those individuals have completed their health assessment. So that's right on par with last year, as I mentioned. So now with kind of moving into the second quarter here of the year, just focusing on the third and final step, which is the health coaching appointments. So far, there's 300 employees who have signed up for that, and that will take place for the next 3 months or so. So I'll be meeting with every one of those individuals to go over their blood work and discuss any goals that they'd like to set. So that's all right on track, which is great. And then the quarter one wellness challenge, that all wrapped up, and that was a huge success. That's all very positive feedback, and everything is right on track right now. So all's looking good.
Okay, so you don't need any action from us this month, right?
Nope.
Okay, well, thank you, appreciate it. Next up is finance report. Ed, what you got?
Hi, don't have too much right now. We'll be going over about 3 resolutions after this. We continue to work on the information that we need to get to our auditors for our year-end audit. Normal day-to-day processes we've been working on. We will be looking forward to working on the Quest wage plan implementation for our budget, our upcoming budget, to make sure that goes smooth before we even start the budget process. So we've been busy up there. So, eventually then, once we hopefully get a new finance director, get that person up to speed and help us out. We have started the CIP process. We've already had several departments return their CIP plans to us that have been approved by their committee. Also been busy working with the Sheriff's Department and the Jail Study Ad Hoc Committee, getting information that they need, whether it be information for financing or what other expenses. So that's about it for now. We just continue to keep moving forward.
Okay, and we got 3 resolutions to deal with here.
Yes, we do.
Okay. The first one is a resolution on budget shift for the criminal justice coordinator. And as I understand it, what they're doing is just taking the money that had been put in, that had been budgeted under the drug court line item and shifting it to the CPC items. So the resolution's in your folder. Are there any questions?
I'll make a motion.
I'll just make a quick
Okay, well, I got a motion from Adam, second by Fire. And go ahead, Ed.
Okay, yes, what you said is correct, but you'll also notice that some of the line items have shifted, where they're using, instead of using more consulting, that they were hiring more people to work with it, but you'll notice at the bottom, the budget number has not changed.
Yeah, thank you. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And the next one, Ed, that's, what is this? This is the amended 2021 budget to include monies that were amended in Resolution 21-3-2 from the wrong function for provider relief funding related to compensatory time payout. Ed, or who's got that? Kim or
I got that.
Ed? Okay.
Yes, this was approved at the last meeting. As we were getting ready to enter it in for the information, we realized that we had the wrong account information. So normally when that happens, we just do an amended or correcting one, just to make sure that we have the right functions. So that's all we're doing here, is just moving it from the function that originally was approved to the correct function.
Are there any other questions? What are your wishes?
To approve.
Motion by Plimmel, second by Fisher to approve. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Okay, and the next one is, let's see, to amend the Land and Water Conservation Department 2021 budget for the purpose of carrying over funds for countywide nitrate sampling effort of private wells in 2021. Now, I just made a mess of everything here, so. Mr. Curry, would you like to introduce this for us?
Thank you. Reason I'm here rather than department head, he's on vacation. I don't think we did vacation. This is what we've done, what the department has done so far as testing. You remember, it's about a year and a half ago, $10,000 was taken out of contingency to fund this program. We had $3,600 or $3,800 left. Between COVID and a lot of things, we didn't have enough time to finish the 10,000. There is a need or a request for this testing that we can do with the health department, and that's why we've asked to do this.
All right. So you've got the resolution in your packet. Any questions?
And one other, if I didn't say it, the intent was we test at least 10 wells in each township. We've accomplished that in some areas, but we can fill in, and this is to create a database for land conservation as far as water in the county. Thank you.
It's good, Lance.
Just have a quick question. I have no problem with this, but do we tap the real estate database? No property gets sold that has any financing involved that doesn't have a water test. Do you know if we tap into that, or if we somehow garner those results, or are we just, kind of going out and asking people if they want to test? When I think of how many properties get sold in these areas, and unless somebody's walking in with a suitcase full of cash, there's a water test on it. You know if we get those results? You might not have any idea.
I've got the edge of, there's something gonna be coming up on well testing. Right now, the DNR holds that data that you're talking about. We access it, but it isn't as, I don't wanna say pertinent, but as valuable as it could be. In the next few months, we're gonna be bringing a deal that the county will take over what the DNR is doing as far as well testing. We should get better data out of it then. But you're right. It's whether that data goes from the well driller into the state, and then it's compiled so you can have a valid data.
Sure. Well, the reason I'm asking is almost every one of those tests, almost all of them, are done by UW Stevens Point. You know, so anytime you sell a property, they take a water sample, it goes to UW Stevens Point. You would think they'd already have that database, or we could, I'm not arguing against this, I'm saying, but we ought to have more data than we have here. I'm thinking there's, 500 homes sold a year just right in Rapids, and probably at least half of those have water tests, so.
Is it, and I'm not discounting what you're saying, Lance, but the well testing is, if there's money, if you paid cash for a house, would you still have to get it?
No.
Right.
But that,
And that's
not at all.
That's a minimum amount.
Yeah, it's about 5% of the people, the rest of them are all tested, and I'm thinking that data's already at UW Stevens Point. If we could get that additionally, I think it would be helpful.
But we utilized the data out of Point.
Okay, any other questions? We have a motion and a second, we need a motion by Fire, second by Plymouth, discussion. If not, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, so carried.
One more pinch as long as I'm here talking about water. Here's the beer and water testing. All municipalities have to test their water yearly. 85% of the water wells in Wisconsin are utilized are rural wells. So the bulk, not just in Wood County, but in the state, the bulk of the water comes from either points or wells. And they also run their own sewer district with their septic tanks. My push and seed, and I believe the committee is too, is not to have the county test every well, or it's to bring up the awareness to the public that it's important that you test your water yearly, and you watch your septic systems to make sure they're functioning properly. Thank you.
Yeah, and Ken, that was kind of my question, I have one of those districts that part city, part town. And, one of the arguments I get from those people in the city is, why am I paying for your water test? Go test your water. And they every single person, go test your water, it's $30. If you have a private well, as well as septic, pumping. But, that's the pushback I get there. I don't think it hurts to have that official database though. But I think that's something that the individuals should certainly take, to heart and think about doing that, at least on every couple of years.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? So carried, unanimously, right. Okay, Kim, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Oh, okay.
Did I do that twice?
Yeah, it's double affirmative. You got 2 votes, Ken.
The agenda item is regarding the public health nurse classification. This was as a result of the committee's decision and discussion last month to bring this back in 30 days to have Patrick and Sue kind of talk and reevaluate the position. There was some confusion on the 30-day timeline provided by the committee. Patrick thought he had 30 days to get the information from Sue and to bring a recommendation. He didn't get the information from Sue by the 26th, which was his deadline to get the information for the packet. They have since talked. There's been a number of exchanges between the two of them. So the information that's in the packet, I believe that starts on page 29. You'll find a memo from Patrick and then a memo from Sue. Those were created before the two had discussed this in depth, but those communications have since occurred, I think as recent as yesterday. Ultimately, Patrick's recommendation is to keep the public health nurses at grade I. And I'm not sure if Sue's on the call or has anything else to add.
Is Sue on the call?
Yep. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Sue.
Thank you. Hi. Thank you for the opportunity to discuss this once again. So I guess my 2 main concerns are internal equity when it comes to the public health nurses and our registered sanitarian physicians, as well as assuring that we have the ability to recruit and retain talent when it comes to our public health nurse pool. So by the information that's in your packet, our 2021 wages continue to show that Wood County is below our neighboring counties, Portage, Clark, and Marathon, and Waupaca and Marquette. And that's really who we compete with when we are trying to hire public health nursing staff. But I think more concerning is that our 2021 wages are lower than the 2019 actual wages for Marathon and Clark counties as well. And if the nurses were placed one grade higher, it would be more equitable as well as more competitive when it comes to recruitment and retention. And there, I put a little financial note in there. This really isn't about money for the nursing staff. This is not going to impact their bottom line. So for three most senior nurses, one would receive a 40-cent an hour increase, another 14 cents, and another 2 cents per hour if they were moved up one grade level. So I realize the ball is in your court, and Patrick and I disagree, and that's okay. And I presented the information that I would like to present to you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Kim, you have anything to add, or?
So Patrick did mention that some of the wages that were on the spreadsheet that Sue put in the packet is reported. I don't think there were any of the ones though that Sue mentioned just now in terms of the talent that we compete for. But some of the counties did supervisory wages into their ranges, so some of those are a little bit elevated. But like Sue had mentioned, specifically competing with Portage Marathon, those are not ones that were misrepresented in her numbers. So
I read Patrick's email over again yesterday, and he has, if I get this wrong, I haven't do that once in a while. Basically, what he wanted to do was change the environmental environmental requirements of the job for the environmental health people, lower them down so they were the same as public health nurses. Is that correct?
This option he is presenting and a recommendation, yes.
Yeah. So what would be the impact if we did that? What would that make much? Would that make any of the differences, or narrow the differences between the pay scales?
It would place them at the same pay grade in terms of individual.
Well, that's just that environmental conditions is just one of the criteria. So it would make that much of a difference. That one criteria would make that much of a difference.
Criteria raises the level of that position just over the line to get it into that. So bringing the rating environment down slightly would be on the pay scale is what Patrick is explaining.
Mr. Chairman, can I make one comment?
Of course.
I think moving the environmental health staff down would have a devastating impact on morale within our department, and I think it would cause even more tension between those two professional groups. I honestly would rather see you deny the nurses' appeal than to move the environmental health staff. I think it would be devastating, and our department has already been through a lot in the last year.
Lance, go ahead, please.
You know, I get Patrick's take, and I obviously look at Sue's. Is it imperative that, I'd like to have this data cleaned up. And the reality is I need to be competitive, especially in this area, and we are talking cents to some extent. You know, I'd like to see all of that data accumulated currently, along with what those benefits are. You know, if we have the ability to do that, and pull that down, you know, are we talking apples and apples, oranges and oranges? And I have no problem leaving this on the agenda till next month if that doesn't create a huge hardship, so we can clean this up and we're not talking, you know, 2019, 20 versus 21.
So that means that Patrick would have to clean up the sheet, right? That'd be the one that would.
Patrick or Kim or whomever we get it
The
from.
three of us can work together.
The three of them can work together. Because I know this is a tough field, and they're having difficulty filling those. You know, my wife is not a nurse; she works in that environment though, and I know that recruitment is incredibly difficult. And I just want to be competitive. I don't want to be the top one. We end up with that whipsaw situation where they're getting X, so we should get X too. But I really would like to look at this, take another month and clean it up instead of making a decision with half of the data.
I can understand that, and I also understand that even with the cleaned up data, it's going to be a difficult decision.
It is, because the
So-
other piece is the internal equity and
Right.
the other classification, a large classification of employees that are neck and neck with the public health nurses are the social workers. And other employees, they are rated the exact same, and that's an internal equity piece that we have to be very mindful of when you're looking at moving the classification of employees. You have another one right behind them that's gonna be raising their rate as well.
But I don't think waiting a month to clean that up and then look at it, like, Ed, you're right, it's a tough decision either way, but I'd like to have all that information instead of, kind of shooting from the hip going, I got some of it.
I agree. I would entertain a motion to carry this over to the next monthly meeting of the committee. And basically ask Sue, Kim, and Patrick to work together to get us some numbers that they can agree upon.
Okay.
Do I have a motion, Matt?
Yeah, I think that's, I don't even know if we need one, but I mean, I think that's appropriate, and I think we should also, just from a committee perspective, kind of make that a time certain where at that point we're gonna make a decision, so we aren't just moving this along month to month.
Okay, that's reasonable.
By then, everybody should be back from spring break, everybody should be around, we ought to be able to make those decisions.
Okay, so Kelly, you got that?
Yes.
Okay, and I think the important point to stress in that is that we expect, it is expected that we will make a decision at the next meeting. Okay, that's it. Okay, are there any other agenda items for the next meeting? Yeah.
Ed, am I muted?
No, ma'am, I can hear you loud and clear.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm walking, so I couldn't tell if I was muted or
Didn't
not.
know if you
So
lost you.
I just wanted to make a statement about that one thing is we can't keep kicking this can down the road forever. So I appreciate you making the statement that we've got to make a decision next month about this. And I appreciate that. So thank you for saying that that's what we're going to do. Okay.
Thank you, Donna. Appreciate it. Okay, Heather, what do we got?
Are we hopefully at the next meeting gonna discuss the CARES funding money? Because it's supposed to be distributed within 60 days and it was signed March 11th, which means in theory, May 11th, that money, half of that money should be coming in. And as far as I know, and speaking with Ed in that, there's no plan. Like, do you want these funds segregated? Do you want these in a separate, account? Like what are the wishes? What are we gonna do with this money?
This, as I understand it, these monies were, the grant was figured out, the amount was figured out by emergency government, is that correct?
No, this is the money from the federal government, the 14.157 million.
We've already got, I didn't know we already had that.
It's supposed to be coming within 60 days. And it was signed March 11th, sorry, Lance.
No, I'm just saying, we don't even know what we can do with this yet, that's the problem, and
That's
I was
my
sharing,
understanding
I
too.
was sharing with Ed this morning, I was on the phone with the WCA legislative director this morning. And he said, it's hard for us to even weigh in on both the governor's share or that 14.1, because we don't know what the sideboards are. I mean, I got a whole bunch of ideas of what we can do with that. But I don't know if it's allowable or appropriate. So if you ask me, it would be just put it in a segregated account at this point if we got a wire transfer or a big check,
We haven't got a big check yet.
until we decide where we're gonna internally, allocate those dollars.
Right, and I think that should be on the next agenda then, for
Right,
sure.
so like Ed's gonna need to set up new account numbers and things like that to probably throw money out.
Don't we only need to set up one new account number with a whole bunch of
50-50? But I think that's something that we need to, if those funds are gonna be expected in May, I believe we need to at least get that on the May agenda, so.
So don't have a check in your drawer?
Right, so.
Okay.
Okay, that'll work, yeah. So let's get that on the agenda for the next meeting.
Thank you.
I mean, maybe you've gotten some guidance, but we don't even know what the allowable rules are on investment of that during the spend out period. Again, what we can use it for,
Right,
or any of that yet.
I have little bits and pieces of what you can and cannot do. Like you can't plug a pension fund.
Oh, yeah.
But like, if at the end of the year, our sales tax didn't meet what it should have been, then we can use these funds to plug revenue shortfalls. You can do it for, employee payouts, for those premium pay is what they call it.
But you can't use it to reduce tax levy.
Correct. You
So
can
my
do-
question is, you spend that down and then use the other money that you saved to put that in
Right.
your general fund later.
Right, water, sewer, broadband infrastructure, which really isn't our gig except possibly the broadband.
Right, we get the broadband coming, but if the, you know, in conversations yesterday, or a couple days ago with the lieutenant governor, if the governor actually allocates part of his 3.2 billion to county shares of broadband expense, we might not have to come up with any, we might not have to use any of that money for that.
That's right.
So it's a lot of moving parts and an awful lot of money to print, and that doesn't really exist.
And Lance, this is Donna. I'd like to reiterate, if I could, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, please.
I just wanted to say that, you know, there's a chunk of money coming from the state too. And I think that Lance makes a good point that there's no sense in us deciding what we're going to do with some of those funds until we find out what the state is going to do with those funds, because we certainly don't want to duplicate efforts and use it as wisely as we can. And if the state backfills some of those, like broadband expansion and some transportation needs, then we can just, I hope, just sit on that money until we figure out what's going to happen from the state.
Yeah, well, could you hurry up on that, please?
Well, we're working on it.
Yeah,
Believe
it's
me,
fun-
that's
it's fun
why I'm
progress. I
down
get to
here
see that.
today and not with you all. Yeah, so
Okay.
we have 4 years to spend that money. Is that not correct?
2024.
Correct. So 3
Yeah,
years.
okay. So we have
December
time.
34.
Donna's spot on, though, you know, and I don't want to just sit there what we're doing in advance, but as we look at this, when we're in conversation with both the legislative leaders and the governor's offices, where does all this fall? Because we don't, a really good example is, we got too much money in the bus fund, so we don't get the grant money. You know, it's kind of a same deal here, you know, I don't want to use it on something and then find out later there were dollars available that now I have to give back
Right.
because it happened, and I think we have, to your point, it's gonna happen pretty fast, but I really think we need to have all the rules in place and know exactly where that funding's coming from
Right.
and allowable.
Okay, so that'll be on the next agenda. Anything else on there?
But I think if in the meantime, if we get, you know, that deposit, so to speak, or that windfall, I mean, you really only have to set up one account, don't you?
Right, but
Park
if,
it.
well, right, but I mean, parking the net in the general fund, you're not gonna get any money from it. So do I move it towards investments, knowing we're not
Is
going?
that I don't even know if that's allowable.
Well, right, I mean, it seems to be because all the investment people are like, hey, you're gonna be getting money, so,
That's the problem.
but.
Keep the department heads that big. This is gonna be like feeding a pack of wolves, so they don't wanna do that, so.
Yeah, I mean, if it's allowable, even if we only pick up a few basis points, I mean, if we don't wanna do that, there's
But sitting in the general
a very,
checking isn't
no,
gonna
a
do
very
us.
small percentage of 14 million is still a fair amount of money.
Right, that's my concern, is just sitting, because then with the, collateralization at Wood Trust, they would probably get a little testy about having that much that they're gonna have to collateralize.
Yeah.
So, that's just, I'm
Sure.
looking for direction on where you want me to go with those. I mean, if allowable, I have ideas because I have some funds obviously that are better than others on
If
return.
there's no restriction about us putting this in like overnight funds that we have access to, but still drawing some level of interest.
Right.
There's no prohibition against that, right?
We don't
Don't
know,
100%
but
know.
if there isn't, you could.
Right, so I don't wanna,
Okay. I think it's something that would allow us to be footloose enough to move it from one place to another in the department would be okay by me. I don't see any problem with that, do you, Lance?
No.
Okay, all right. Okay, Kim, what time's our first interview?
11.
11. What I'd like to do is have the committee go into recess until 10:45 and reassemble here at 10:45, and we'll go into closed session at 10:45. Mr. Fire can't be
So
with us.
Ed,
Donna can't be with us. Yes, sir, ma'am?
yeah.
Go
So
ahead, Donna.
if I get out of my committee meetings and can join those interviews at 10:45, are we going to have an option for me to do that, or are these going to be closed session and I won't be able to join?
I'm not sure how IT has that set up. I will check. And Don, I'll give you a call on your phone number and let you know what's going to be happening, okay? I'll leave a
Yeah,
message.
somebody get in touch with me, because I very well may be finished by 11 o'clock and can sit in on those, okay?
Okay, sounds good.
Okay,
I'll check with
thank
IT and
you.
make sure it's covered. Okay, and
Okay.
with that, we will go into recess until 10:45. So moved.
Nice job, Mr. Chairman.
All right, I think I finished that.
Are all you guys either fully vaccinated or opted out? I mean, all opportunities existed anyway.
I got mine.
It started
I'm
on
fully vaccinated.
I'm betting 20% of the people on my last hospital just opted out.